Good evening and welcome to NewsNight. Tonight we'll have all your international, national, and local news. I'm Cade Montgomery.
And I'm Leslie Krebs. A new health technology was created in Pittsburgh. Find out what for and additional advancements made towards Pittsburgh's quality of life.
And learn about the violence that ensued about the Israel-Palestine war.
All this and more coming up on NewsNight.
It's been 28 years since former Formula One driver Gerard Berger had his red Ferrari 512 EM Testarossa stolen from him. The New York Times reports that the car was stolen at the 1995 San Marino Grand Prix in Imola, Italy. Though Berger chased the Ferrari in a friend's car, he could not catch up with the thieves. Though the car was missing for a very long time, it recently was discovered in London. ABC News reports that London's Metropolitan Police Force was tipped off by the car manufacturer back in January. They explained that the Ferrari was being sold to a buyer in the U.S. from a broker in the U.K., which was flagged as stolen. ABC also reported that the force's organized vehicle crime unit quickly investigated and found that the car had been brought to London from Japan sometime last year. The New York Times reported the police believe the car was sent to Japan shortly after it was originally stolen. Leader of the investigation, Constable Mike Pilbeam, told ABC, quote, "Our inquiries were painstaking and included contacting authorities from around the world," end quote.
This past Thursday, Israeli troops opened fire on a crowd of hungry Palestinians awaiting trucks carrying flour. The shooting occurred just southwest of Gaza City, killing 112 and wounding 750 people. This is only the most recent attack on Palestine's starving citizens awaiting aid, bringing the death toll up to 30,000, with two-thirds being women and children, health officials report. The UN has reported that now a quarter of Palestine citizens are facing starvation. Ambulances were unable to reach the area, forcing the injured to be transported to nearby hospitals by trucks or donkeys. Hospitals are unable to accommodate the growing masses, though, as they are running out of fuel and space and have already run out of blood. Israeli troops stated they only opened fire when they felt threatened by the masses. They later ran over the dead and injured with their trucks as they were leaving the area. The Gaza Ministry of Health is calling the attack a massacre. Meanwhile, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia have accused Israel of targeting Palestine citizens. The U.S. Foreign Administration is asking the Israeli government for its reasoning and for more aid to be given. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said, quote, "We have been in touch with the Israeli government since early this morning and understand that an investigation is underway. We'll be monitoring that investigation closely and pressing for answers," end quote. President Biden has said that this attack would only add to the difficulty of reaching a ceasefire, but is remaining optimistic. A U.S. and Russian space crew has blasted off to the International Space Station to perform some abnormal experiments. Reporter Brendan McNamara has the scoop. Brendan?
Thank you, Leslie. 3 men and 1 woman took off into space from Florida on board a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket on Sunday night. The 3 U.S. astronauts and 1 Russian cosmonaut are heading for the International Space Station to conduct various science experiments. One such experiment will involve growing artificial replicas of human organs, which is impossible to do on Earth due to gravity. In all, about 200 experiments will be conducted, and the mission is scheduled to finish in mid-August, according to NASA. The launch was originally scheduled for Saturday, but was canceled due to strong winds. The crew of 4 is scheduled to reach the space station by Tuesday and will join a 7-person crew already there. According to BBC News, the station is about the length of a football field and is the largest human-made object in space. It is also a rare international collaboration that maintains the space station, currently the United States, Russia, Canada, Japan, and 11 other European countries.
Haiti authorities have established a curfew and a 3-day state emergency for citizens after a mass jailbreak of the 2 largest prisons. Over the weekend, a group of gunmen stormed the 2 prisons and released nearly 3,000 inmates, which began a slew of violence across the area. 12 people have died, hostages have been taken, and around 15,000 people were forced and or urged to relocate due to the erratic violence. Gang leaders are now demanding that Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry must resign. The situation is still developing. Germany just became the third European country to decriminalize a certain substance. Reporter Catherine Greisinger has the details on how it came to be and how the public has responded. Catherine?
The German parliament has just voted to legalize the recreational use of cannabis despite opposition from national medical groups. The law was just passed in the lower house of parliament with over 60% of lawmakers voting in favor of it and allows for the possession of up to 25 grams of the substance in public for anyone over the age of 18 starting on April 1st. The law also allows up to 50 grams of the substance to be in private homes as well as up to 3 marijuana plants per household. While licensed shops and pharmacies will not be allowed to sell cannabis under this law, starting July 1st, non-commercial members clubs with up to 500 members will be allowed to grow and distribute the substance. These clubs will only be open to German residents. According to German Health Minister Karl Lauterbach, quote, "The aim is to crack down on the black market and drugs-related crime, reduce the amount of dealing, and cut the number of users," end quote. Some argue, however, that the difficulty in obtaining the drug will only fuel the black market. This law makes Germany just the third country in Europe to legalize the recreational use of cannabis.
Thanks, Catherine. In a win for pro-choice advocates internationally, France has just become the first country to enshrine the right to abortion in its constitution. The bill passed in a 780 to 72 vote in favor of the measure. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal addressed the parliament prior to the vote, saying, quote, "We have a moral debt to women," end quote. There's some protest in the decision, including the Catholic Church, who via the Vatican made the statement, quote, "In the era of universal human rights, there can be no right to take a human life," end quote. Opinion polling shows that an estimated 80% of the French population does support the amendment, however, and Macron will officially sign the law in a public ceremony this Friday. Coming up after the break, hear about a deadly form of protest one man enacted. Also, 2 pharmaceutical companies have taken steps to provide abortion pills and other forms of contraceptives. Hear where they're offered and more coming up.
It's a tough crowd. The, quote, "dumbest rule in swimming," end quote, is what North Carolina State University swimmer Ross Dant called Rule 2, Section 5 of the NCAA rulebook after a technicality caused his teammate to be disqualified during a recent conference final meet. CNN reports that Owen Lloyd, a senior also attending North Carolina State University, won the 1,650-yard freestyle event at the ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference Championships, at the end of February. But his title did not last long. After his teammate Dant had finished in second place in the lane next to him, Lloyd climbed over into Dant's lane before the other swimmers had touched the wall. The Athletic reported that shortly following this, an announcement was heard over the PA system stating that Lloyd had been disqualified. The referee at the event cited the NCAA rulebook, which reads, quote, "A swimmer who changes lanes during a heat shall be disqualified," end quote. Since not every swimmer had touched the wall when Lloyd entered his teammate's lane, that meant that Lloyd had crossed into another lane during the heat, leading to his time of 14 minutes and 37.04 seconds, conference title, and his automatic bid to the NCAA championships to be disqualified.
This past Saturday, 3 trains were involved in a crash causing several cars to be derailed on the side of the Lehigh Valley River in eastern PA. The crash occurred around 7:15 a.m. in Lower Saucon Township near Allentown, Pennsylvania. The crash was caused when an eastbound train collided with another train on the same track. The wreckage from that crash was scattered across a track nearby, which then caused a third train to crash and derail several cars, with the current number still unknown. Cars were scattered across the riverbank, with one partially in the river. The crash caused diesel fuel and plastic pellets to be spilled into the nearby water, causing concern. According to American Rivers, the Lehigh Valley River supplies water to hundreds of thousands of the area's local residents, as well as potentially more than 15 million, as the river is a tributary of the Delaware River. Containment booms were deployed to soak up any diesel fuel spilled, and most of the plastic pellets fell onto the bank reportedly. The trains were owned by Norfolk Southern, a major train company that services the Pennsylvania and New Jersey area. The company made a statement Monday saying they, quote, quickly responded to the derailment that resulted in no harm to the community and no hazardous material concerns from the rail cars. We take this incident seriously and work hard to avoid all accidents, end quote. Track repair is currently underway, as well as investigators continuing their interviews with the crew to further their investigation on how and why the crash happened. A full report is expected to come out in 1 to 2 years. Pharmacies CVS and Walgreens have taken action in providing abortion pills to residents in legal states. Reporter Juliana Brock will detail how and where these pills will be distributed. Jules?
Two of the largest pharmacies in the nation, Walgreens and CVS, will start selling the abortion pills mifepristone this month. Officials from the two pharmacies said that they received certification from the Federal Food and Drug Administration last year to offer the pill only in stores and will not be providing the medication by mail. The pill will only be offered in states where abortion is legal. Abortion is currently available in 28 states. It is legal in Kansas until the first 22 weeks of pregnancy and 24 weeks in Massachusetts, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. Walgreens will start dispensing the pill this week and in the coming weeks at CVS in select states. Both plan to have access at their stores in all legal states by the end of the month. Walgreens received strong backlash at this time last year when they responded to threatening letters from Republican attorneys in 21 states. They responded by stating they would not dispense medication in those states. Neither chain discussed the medication's price, but stated to multiple outlets that some insurance policies can cover it in some states.
U.S. Airman had set himself on fire last week in an act of self-immolation in protest of Israel's actions against Palestine. 25-year-old Aaron Bushnell, an active member of U.S. Air Force, set himself on fire out front of the Israel Embassy in Washington, D.C. whilst live streaming on Twitch. Moments before his act, he stated, quote, "I'm an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I am about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal," end quote. He then doused himself in a flammable liquid, caught on fire, and shouted, quote, "Free Palestine," throughout the burning. This act has shocked the public and has started a polarizing conversation about genocidal acts and what is an acceptable form of protest. Border control has been an important topic, especially in the southern states. Reporter Brendan McNamara has the details about how Texas and Tennessee are combating growing border issues. Brendan?
Thank you, Cade. Tennessee has announced the deployment of 2 waves of National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border in support of Texas during its ongoing fight with the federal government over border security and enforcement. Most Republican governors, including Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, have been vocal in their support of Texas. Earlier this year, the Texas National Guard took control of a busy border crossing in Eagle Pass and refused to allow federal officials to access the area. The Supreme Court then ruled against Texas, reaffirming decades of precedent that the federal government, not the states, is responsible for the border. Over the last few years, a record number of unauthorized migrants crossed the border and have overwhelmed many cities. Those seeking asylum usually turn themselves into border control agents. However, others sneak in and try to evade authorities. Tennessee has already deployed about 125 soldiers to McAllen, Texas, but has not said where the new deployments will ultimately end up, according to USA Today. The new deployment will include about 50 soldiers deployed through March, with a second wave expected to replace the first in the spring.
A 3-vehicle crash left a woman's truck dangling from a bridge, with her trapped inside. On Friday, March 1st in Louisville, Kentucky, a woman driving a tractor-trailer was a part of a 3-vehicle crash on the George Rogers Clark Memorial Bridge. The crash left her vehicle dangling off the side of the bridge, trapping her 100 feet above the Ohio River. Louisville Fire Department set up a rope system to rescue the victim. They chose Bryce Carden to rescue her. Louisville Fire Chief Brian O'Neill told New York Times, quote, "He is the exact right person to put down there to keep that patient calm, cool, and collected, and to understand that she is in safe hands so she doesn't panic," end quote. Carden stated that he has practiced rope rescues enough that this has become, quote, second nature to him, but this was the first time he has ever had to use it in an emergency situation. He did an exceptional job as the rescue took about 5 minutes. Carden was suspended down to the woman's door and cut her out of the seatbelt with a pocket knife. He then attached her to the rope so they could get lifted back onto the bridge. Carden said, quote, "I kept telling her, I have you, I have you. She was just thanking God, and then I told her, let's just keep praying together," end quote. The rescue is being watched by many as drones and news stations broadcasted it live, but Carden was focused only on the task at hand. The driver, who was not publicly identified, was taken to the hospital that night for non-life-threatening injuries, and her truck was removed from that bridge later that evening. Coming up after the break, hear about the condition and reunion of a missing child near Duquesne. Plus, residents of Monroeville are ecstatic after new development will reopen a beloved convention center. Stay tuned.
UPMC and the University of Pittsburgh have created a new smartphone app that, with the help of artificial intelligence, can accurately diagnose ear infections. KDKA-TV reports that the tool analyzes videos taken of the eardrum by a smartphone-connected otoscope and can diagnose infections more accurately than a typical clinician. Alejandro Hoberman, the director of Division of General Academic Pediatrics at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine and president of UPMC Children's Community Pediatrics, told KDKA-TV, quote, "We accomplished 94% sensitivity, specificity, and 94% accuracy in diagnosing an ear infection versus not an ear infection in children, which is quite good and better than most physicians are," end quote. Hoberman went on to say that 70% of children get this ear infection before turning a year old. Utilizing this tool could help to more accurately diagnose ear infections for children at younger ages and help to treat them before they're in too much pain.
Station Square is a location in Pittsburgh that rarely sees violent crime. In fact, Pittsburgh's overall crime rate has gone down in recent years, with only reported 100 homicides occurring in Allegheny County in 2023, compared to the 222 homicides reported the year before. Most often, these fatal shootings occur in eastern areas like East Hills and Homewood. However, this past Friday at approximately 11:20 p.m., police responded to a reported shooting at 230 West Station Square Drive. The shooting occurred near the Hard Rock Cafe in Station Square, where police have now taped the area off. When police arrived at the scene, the man was found to have gunshot wounds to the pelvis. The officers then applied a tourniquet in hopes of stemming the bleeding. Quickly, the officers began to notice his condition rapidly worsening. Medics then transported him in critical condition to UPMC Mercy Hospital. After arrival, he was soon pronounced dead as a result of his injuries sustained. The Allegheny County Medical Examiner was then able to identify the man as 25-year-old Mount Morris resident David Anthony Utley Ralph. Investigators are looking for a U-Haul truck seen fleeing the area shortly after the shots occurred. Currently, there are no known suspects involved in the crime. Investigators are unsure if this shooting was a result of gang or drug-related crime, but are looking further into the issue. As of now, homicide detectives are currently investigating and urging anyone with potential information to call the Pittsburgh Police Headquarters. Pittsburgh's International Airport is getting a multi-million renovation. Reporter Juliana Brock will discuss what the project is and how it's being executed. Jules?
Pittsburgh International Airport officials said Friday that their $1.5 billion construction project is now over halfway done at 60%. The project includes a new 811,000 square foot terminal and a 5,000 space parking garage. Paul Hoback, Chief Development Officer of the Allegheny County Airport Authority, said the project is set to open in 2025. No specific date is known yet. Hoback said there are several factors such as testing and meeting regulations that make it hard to set an exact completion date. He also told Trib Live that the project is on budget and that no local or state taxes are being used to fund the very expensive project. Rather, the costs are covered by fees from airlines, some of the airport's revenue, and $25 million in grants from the federal government. Goals for the project include larger baggage carousels, a connector bridge to replace the automated tram, express elevators, and new security gates, including one designed for families with children. Spirit Airlines is now adding a non-stop flight from New York's LaGuardia Airport to Pittsburgh with a new set price of $89 when purchased 21 days in advance.
In the North Hills, residents were stunned to learn that their local Outback Steakhouse restaurant permanently closed its doors. One user took to Facebook after hearing the news, and others responded with complaints of long waits, poor tasting food, and a lack of customer service satisfaction. One user wrote, quote, "I hate bashing places, but last time I went there, they seated us in the bar area, waited 40 minutes, and nobody came to our table for drink orders or anything, so we left," end quote. Outback Steakhouse is owned by their parent company, Bloomin' Brands, who announced last week that they will be closing 41 underperforming locations, according to CNN. 3 other Outback Steakhouses still operate in our area that are located in Moon Township, Monroeville, and Washington, PA. Residents of Monroeville have banded together to save the popular convention center from new management. Reporter Catherine Greisinger will tell us why the company reversed its plan and the significance of the convention center within the Monroeville community.
Great news for residents of Monroeville. The Monroeville Convention Center is not closing after all. Last month, Convention Center owners Oxford Development announced plans to lease out the space to retailer Hobby Lobby starting June 1st. This news came as a shock to many local citizens and left 40 show organizers on their own to find new locations for their events. After pushback from the community and local, county, and state officials, Hobby Lobby and Oxford were able to come to a mutual agreement to terminate their 12-year lease. State Representative Nick Pisciottano applauded the community, saying, quote, "Rather than making public statements to attribute blame, our elected officials rolled up their sleeves and collaborated to address the issue," end quote. In a press conference this week, Mayor Nick Gressuk stressed that the pushback was about the potential effect on the local economy that had seen growth since the convention center's opening in 2009, saying, quote, "It was all about the convention center, and we didn't want to lose the convention center. We are very much willing to help them from a municipal standpoint. We have business owners and property owners that have space for them, so we would love to show Hobby Lobby around and help them find a home here in Monroeville," end quote. The convention center brought in over 400,000 visitors last year and contributed to over 20,000 hotel stays in Monroeville. Plans are still uncertain for the adjacent Doubletree Hotel that closed its doors last week amidst the plan to close the convention center. A transition plan is still being worked on for the convention center to act as a long-term community asset under a different structure, but things are already looking up, as 38 out of 40 event organizers that were asked to change location have already re-signed to hold their events at the center.
A toddler has been reunited with her mother after being found wandering alone in the cold near the Duquesne Incline. Pittsburgh Public Safety and Police were called around 4 a.m. last Thursday for reports of a 3-year-old girl spotted walking the streets alone. Citywide units then found the girl on Oneida Street wearing just a t-shirt in weather that was below 30 degrees. The girl was transported to the hospital by EMS for cold exposure and symptoms of vomiting. She was treated for hypothermia but was reunited with her mother later in the day. Investigators say the little girl was in the care of a babysitter before exiting her Mount Washington home in the middle of the night. No charges are expected at this time. When we return, hear about more. Plus, learn if you need to break out the spring clothing with your daily and weekly weather forecast. We'll be right back.
In the last 15 years, there have only been 5 sightings of the endangered gray whale in the Atlantic Ocean since the 18th century. But scientists are excited to announce that a sighting of the gray whale has been confirmed off the coast of New England this past weekend. The gray whale is a 60,000-ton whale that has nearly gone extinct in the 20th century, normally living in the Pacific Ocean. Gray whales were hunted significantly due to commercial whaling, and their population became critically endangered very quickly. This sighting is a good indication to scientists that the population is growing significantly. The species is now considered a species of least concern by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, with about 27,000 in oceans today. The Pittsburgh community has enjoyed the sunshine this past week as the weather becomes warmer. But is this weather here to stay? Hear about your upcoming daily and weekly forecast from weather reporter Logar Abdus. Logar?
Thanks, Cade. Spring break has ended, but this season's weather has just begun. Tomorrow's temperatures will range from a content 55 degrees in the morning to a high of 62. And not only will we feel the warmth, but we'll see it tomorrow, as it will be nothing but sunshine and some clouds. While we saw high wind speeds consistently throughout the month, wind gusts have gone down to below 10 miles per hour with a 0% chance of rain throughout the day. However, by evening, the temperature will drop to the mid-40s. Take the time to bust out your spring attire and enjoy the sunny afternoon. Going into next week's forecast, the temperature will be relatively stable day to day compared with the erratic weather we had last month. Most days will stay in the mid-50s to high 60s, with the highest being 66 degrees. We'll experience some rain on Saturday and cooler weather on Monday, but beside that, the week will be nothing but spring temperatures. Now back to the desk.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of NewsNight. If you want to see more, check out our social media pages on both Facebook and Instagram at UView Television.
You can also check out more episodes on our YouTube channel or our website, uview.pointpark.edu. I'm Leslie Krebs.
And I'm Cade Montgomery. From everyone here at NewsNight, thank you for watching and have a great evening.